Okay, Dave, it's Will here. We're just going to show Austin the current status of the job by video. So I'm going to go around to everything you've got out. Maybe you can just explain where it's at.
Well, here's part of the front left side suspension. This is the upper arm, and I've got a new ball joint in. Here's an upper and a lower. Here's what the old ball joints were like. The boots are torn, ripped right off, and there's all kinds of play there. That should be packed with grease with no play. The lower ball joint, same thing.
This is on the rear end, eh?
This is the front end, front left suspension. This is the knuckle. Here's the main wheel bearing. It's so-so, but I mean, if you're going to let something go, you could let that go. I do feel some notches though, and I put the other new ball joint in as well.
So you've done the initial cleaning up of those parts too?
Oh yeah, everything has been pretty well cleaned up. Here's the rear differential, the final drive they call it. This is one of the things we were worried about, because the axle was able to wobble like this, because we knew that the bearings on either end were shot. But if it's wobbling, then what happened is we had a little bit of, the splines got chewed up a little bit, they got knife edge, so there's a lot of play in there, and then they mate with this gear in the differential, which we're also worried about a little bit of play. So the end result is, what we don't want is when you hit the power, this will spin. We don't want it to end up stripping, because there's just not enough teeth contact. So while it was working now, we don't want it to, down the road, all of a sudden just finally strip, because there's not enough teeth. So that was the big worry there.
So that's $500 for the parts right there.
I got this all cleaned out. I inspected the bearings. I can't find anything wrong with the bearings. I think they're pretty good. I got the new seal in there.
But if we redo that gear there, do we have to re-shim that gear in the diff?
Yeah, so this is all specifically shimmed. There's a shim here, and there's a shim on this side. This is a very specific measurement, and this goes in place here. And then this bevel meets that bevel, and they have to just have the precise contact patch. So there's shimming involved, there's measuring, there's shimming in this, because it can also move forward and back with the proper shim. And there's a special tool involved to take that out if we have to. And the way we do it, we use a compound called Prussian blue. We put it all together and take it off, and then we can see what the contact patch was, and then we compare that with the manual for the proper specifications.
Okay, let's run through quick what everything else is here. What do we got here? Just old ball joint parts?
This is part of the swing arm. These are just the swing arm bearings. They're just roller bearings. And this is all part of the where the swing arm connects to the bike.
Okay, so that hasn't been done yet.
It hasn't been done yet, but we have the parts for those.
But it needs to be done, right?
It needs to be done. It really should be done. One of them's worse than the other, but
okay. And right here under your clipboard, you've got a brake drum.
Yeah.
You still have to do the cleaning of that.
I still have to clean it out. It's reusable. It's not perfect, but it's reusable.
And the seals?
Seals absolutely should be done. We have them. I believe we have them in.
Okay.
And we have the new pads as well.
Okay,
because they're pretty obvious. Chipped. They're chipped, and then they're so oil soaked. I mean, that ruins them just by that alone.
Okay.
But they're all chipped as well. And these bearings were, of course, shot. You can probably hear them.
Oh yeah, that bearing, yeah.
So it's a double bearing.
So you're really just you do it or don't do it.
We have this whole part new replaced, because this is all oblong, because the axle just ate it away, and that's what's left of the bearing. This is all serviceable. This is all good.
So we're replacing some seals in there. Is that all? Bearings and seals.
This is where the swing arm connects to the bike, and this is where this bearing goes. So
okay.
This will be replaced with the bearing. That goes with the bearing, so that'll be punched out, and then a new one will be put in. And this just does the pivoting of the rear suspension.
Okay, so that's the bulk of the work in the rear end, and we're sort of halfway through. Looks like. Let's go for a little walk here. See what else we got out. I see on the tray we've got just odds and ends of covers.
Yeah, it's just the skid plate for the
all right,
differential.
The The bike itself, is there any work to do here on the rear? Up underneath?
Just, well, I was concerned about the seal over here, but I cleaned it up. I ran the bike as it sits and waited to see if anything leaked out, and nothing did, so that seal looks okay.
Okay.
Here's the needle bearings in the bottom of the shock here. So this is a collar. You can see it's quite grooved, and there's actually little needles that are supposed to be packed with grease, and they're supposed to roll around, but there isn't really much left of them. So I've checked 3 of the 4, and this is what they're like, and it's very typical for those to go.
Okay.
Very typical.
All right. And then on the front end, we've got the left side apart.
Yeah, so all those parts were from this. Here's the,
So up on the bench here.
so here's the dried up needle bearings.
Again, we need those same needle bearings in there.
Same kit.
Hard to see with the camera.
Yeah. That's the caliper. Everything looks pretty good.
Caliper looks good.
This is the axle and the CV boots. Everything looks good there.
But
This is the tie rod. Everything looks pretty good there.
the wheel bearing,
There's no play in the lower.
we already showed him the wheel bearing. And there's the brake.
Brake pads are pretty. There's enough life on them left.
Okay. So basically just reassemble all of that. What's this, a tool?
Yeah, that's for pulling ball joints.
Okay. And there's some maintenance parts. We're still missing the inner air filter.
I'll have it over in the box.
And yeah, so maybe we could leave the front right alone if necessary, and just finish up the other stuff. That might be one possibility. All right, good. Thanks for the update.
Sure.